Hello and welcome to another episode of the Two Medics podcast. My name is Imran Lasker. I'm a consultant radiologist.
And hi, I'm Dushik Wadna. I'm a cardiology registrar subspecializing in intervention.
So this wasn't meant to happen, was it, Trusha? We weren't
It's a bit
meant
weird,
to
isn't
do
it?
an episode together. Yeah, what happened?
So I've been doing lots of on-calls, but the last Thursday I would have been off. But I've also been trying to do quite a lot of runs and stuff, and I'm just struggling to basically fit everything in. It's ridiculous. It sounds really pathetic when I put it that way, but you have time for stuff that you want to do, right? And unfortunately that often means that I want to be around for kids' bedtimes, but then that means that if I go for a run, which I don't want to do, it's quite late in the evening. I put that off, and then it gets late, and then I thought I was going to record the podcast myself, but I was too tired, so then I didn't, and then I was on call over the weekend, and then you were going to do it, but then your face was melting. Isn't it? Your face was melting, so then you didn't do it. But this is good, man. So obviously we've spent the last half an hour just catching up. So
It's
good.
true. I mean, that's the big thing about this. Rabi always says that my face looks like it's melting when I get tired, and I think I do push it sometimes, and I think I must have pushed it quite a lot yesterday because I did my normal work, and then I had loads of work to catch up on. I had one of these companies chasing me for these scans, so I did those. It took me ages. Then I took the kids to swimming, and then I got back, and then I decided randomly I'm going to the zoo.
Okay, which zoo?
So we went to Whipsnade Zoo for the day, and then you get back, and then I was just trying to do everything, just like you. Then I had more scans to do, more things to do, and then I was finally going to do the episode, and I think Robbie was like, "You're going to sleep."
How was Whipsnade Zoo? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I love it, man. I've got a year membership there, so to Whipsnade in London.
Oh, nice.
We normally get our money's worth by just going there and just, if I got time, if I can, bother the kids up for it.
Yeah, I do quite like it to the zoo.
Yeah, isn't it? Like when you're thinking of things to do, that's the part of being a parent, isn't it? Kids, how do you actually keep them entertained half the time? And you go there, and you're not the only parent who's thinking the same thing. They're all just following the kids around. Oh God, yeah, you too.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's funny actually, because when we had our zoo membership, we'd be taking the kids. I wasn't sure they really enjoyed it that much. It's like one of those things that you feel like you have to do with them. And Lil's the thing that she seemed to enjoy the most was going onto the climbing frame things that are there.
Yeah.
What? There's all these animals.
Pay for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I could have done that for free. No, I think Nemo not as anti-animal as I am. I'm more into eating animals, but she seems to quite like stroking the goats and whatever else is
fair
around.
enough.
Yeah, she seems to quite like that. So yeah, it was good, man. It was good.
Cool. To show how late we are in doing this, in the list I've written Valentine's Day. Talk about that. That's did you do anything for Valentine's Day?
No, man, I never do it. No, I don't do anything particularly special for Valentine's Day. I don't know why that is. Did you? I don't know. I just feel like it's a bit of a sellout. It's so typical.
It is,
isn't
yeah.
it? But it's a bit of a sellout thing. I don't want to be doing that kind of thing. But I also wasn't very good with Rabia's birthday this year.
Why?
Yeah.
Do you miss it?
I didn't miss it. I just couldn't think of anything to get her. And
what do you get the woman who has everything? You know.
But no, the thing is, it's a bit difficult to buy things for her because I don't know whether she'll like it or not, and then it gets returned and stuff. So I just think, I don't know. I just get a bit paralyzed by the whole thing.
Do you not just ask her? Why don't you just ask her? What do you want?
Yeah, exactly. And then sometimes be like, oh, you don't need to get me anything, but that means you need to get me something. But I don't know what it is to get, and the whole thing becomes a bit stressful.
That's so funny.
Then ignore it, and then next thing you know, it's her birthday, and I'm looking like a fool. I didn't do anything.
Yeah, fair enough. I know what you mean. So I tend to ask Jo, and she generally will take a little while, but she'll come up with something. But otherwise, she knows that I'll pick something myself. But what I tend to do is go on, I literally will type, what to get my wife for her birthday, and then see what's 2023. And then be like, okay, I'll get those things, and whatever, and then hope for the best. But yeah, I'm sure a lot of it gets returned. But there you go.
Have you seen that ChatGPT thing?
I keep seeing references to it, and I don't really get what it is. What is it?
Oh my God.
Is it a bot?
I don't even get what it is, but it's just incredible. But this is the kind, literally, you log in and you write down whatever. So I think I said to my kids, to give me 3 things, and they gave me a fox, a slide, and an ice cube or something. And I said, write a children's story about a fox, a slide, and an ice cube. And they did a pretty good story, and it sounded like a proper story. And then my mate did one where he said, write me a 15,000 word scientific article on this particular procedure, and it did it with references.
Oh wow!
With references, yeah.
Cool.
So
I'm still doing my MD thesis, so
there's an idea. Definitely think of that. Because genuinely, I'm doing a talk for Radiopedia this year on gym injuries.
Oh, I saw it's got quite a catchy title, hasn't it?
Yeah, I can't
Get
remember
ripped.
exactly what it
Get
is, but
ripped, getting ripped or something.
yeah, getting ripped while going to the gym or something, or gym injuries,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
getting ripped or something like that. But I did type in write a script of a video on about gym injuries and actually gave like pretty good jokes. I said write a funny script and it gave a
Oh,
good few
wow.
jokes in there. I was like, okay, I might actually
Use some of this.
embarrassingly use some of that because
Oh,
the
well,
AI
nice.
was that good. Yeah, I was
Wow.
very impressed. 100% do check it out. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's fun.
So there is
What's
like
been
an
going on?
obligatory, huh?
Yeah, what's been going on? What's the big deal this week? Well, you know.
Last week, you mean? Yeah, yeah, there are a few things. But look, because I've put this reference in and I'm like, I want to put it in, even though it's Valentine's Day was ages ago, nobody cares.
Mm.
But anyway, like this, like quite cute tweet by Oliver Darkshire that says, "When we first started dating, my husband smoked all the time. One day I mentioned I didn't much of the habit, not really expecting it to change. But the next time I saw him, he'd already quit cold turkey, as if it was nothing." And I was like, wow, I guess I'm in love, huh? Jokes on him because I liked him enough. If I'd have let it go if it made him happy. But he just stopped. One of the most addictive habits that exists, purely so we could eat pizza and play video games together. Anyway, quite
That's
cute.
cute, isn't it? That is very cute. That is very
What
cute, isn't it?
would you give up social media for love?
I guess so. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, yeah, I guess so.
It's quite
But I
addictive
think,
though, isn't it?
yeah, it is very addictive. I just have to find something else addictive to do, isn't it? To fill that void of, yeah, whatever. But I remember, I told you, isn't it, when I got married, Rabia got rid of all my clothes. Like, they just, like,
Yeah.
all of just bin bags just full of these clothes. It was completely, yeah, it was completely, I couldn't believe it, like how many clothes I had.
Did you get rid of your
It's
Rocky
goodness.
t-shirt?
I think I managed to keep a Rocky
Okay.
Back to the Future t-shirt
Okay.
and a Royal Free Medical School hoodie, which I've recently started wearing again. It's in a
Wow.
remarkable condition because it hasn't been touched for a decade because I wasn't,
Right.
I don't think it was deemed worthy for me to wear until recently.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's all I have right now.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's a good thing we're doing it today in some ways, Sarush, don't you think? Because I
Yeah.
feel like something big's gone down.
I know. So the BMA ballot.
Mm.
Oh my God.
Mm.
So I think it said that of the 40,000 people that could have voted, I thought it'd be
Mm.
more to be honest. But of the
Mm.
40,000, I don't know, 37,000 or so, quite a lot of people
Mm.
voted. Like 98%. 98% voted yes.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing, really.
We go
Yeah. Here we
towards
go.
going towards strikes. Like
Also,
you can see the standard comments are going to start coming out about vocation, oath, and all this kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
thing. But
yeah.
I think when you've got 98% of the profession saying that they're not happy with this current working, you may need to forget about what you thought about what doctors are and who they are and all that kind of stuff. They can be all of those things, but they also
Yeah.
want to get paid, and that's important, very important. I think
It's
it's great. I think it's fantastic.
It is. I can't remember what the dates were for when this actually might be,
Mm.
but there's strikes everywhere, isn't it? So the nurses are going to do like a full, like they're amping it up. There's like a
Yeah,
full
yeah.
strike. I think I start nights around that time, so that's interesting for me. Yeah.
But the thing is, like, at what point are they going to admit, like, yeah, that maybe they got this wrong? Because if everyone is striking around you like this, right? And I know a whole load of people might be turning around and saying, oh, but what about this? No, it's not what about anything else, right? If
Yeah.
someone else says, oh, I'm not getting paid enough for these people, then go do something about it.
Yeah.
100% support you. Please do something about it. Go to your employer and say, I'm not happy. I'm going to strike. I'm not going to turn up or do something else. But this genuinely is a very important thing, and I'm really pleased to see that there's been such a high turnout. And I guess again we're going to expect the same arguments before, but I think that everyone needs to get used to the idea that I don't think we're going to be a cohort of people to be pushed around anymore because we've been pushed around for so long already. And this is a big deal, man. I think it's a good thing for and anyone, including the public, to know that their doctor's standing up for them as well, isn't it? To make better working conditions and make it a good thing to be a doctor. Why not? Why not make it a good thing to be a doctor? Make people want to go and become a doctor because the way it stands, it's very difficult for anyone to really say, yeah, you know what, you should do medicine. I find it very difficult to tell people that these days, don't you?
Yeah. It isn't it?
Mm.
It's not something that I'd actively be like, oh no, it's like an amazing career in a sense that I
Mm.
feel like I think it needs to be something that you go into with like open eyes, and there's a lot of issues with it. And I think if there's any part of you that's a bit like, you know what, I'd like to have a comfortable life making lots of money, then you should be like an actuarian or something.
If you've got the smarts,
Yeah,
yeah, go
exactly.
do
Just do
something else.
something because it's
That, I mean, talking about, I guess we're talking about like medical students and them going into interviews and thinking about doing medicine. There was someone who tweeted something that made me feel quite sad for them. Charlotte, do you remember this one? CAJ90. She did tweet out this wonderful tweet about getting an anesthetic interview, Anesthetic CT1 interview. Here I come, although not sure why York and Humber specifically, question mark. Are Yorkshire and Humber anesthetic anaesthetist nice? Should I add I up lad to every sentence in the interview? So very clearly excited. And then a follow-up tweet. So, despite being informed I have an interview and being booked for one as per email, it turns out I do not have an interview and just been emailed by ANRO to say that it was an error and I, in fact, do not have an interview. That's pretty devastating. You can just imagine like the high and that horrendous low, don't you think?
Yeah, totally. It's so out of order, isn't it? Like the responses to it were understandably like really angry, and she was philosophical about it. But it's just you can imagine the type of email that you'd get to say, "Oh, yeah, it was an error. Please accept our sincere apologies." Blah, and then see. Oh, okay. There've been some tweets and stuff this week, isn't it? About I guess it's probably something we'll end up discussing next week. But Ollie Burton, he tweeted today. I think it was today about the number of applicants for national training number roles and how it's like skyrocketing upwards. And in a situation, you can't help but feel like upset. There are all these applicants. People are talking about kind of filling posts and the posts that go empty and stuff. And there are people willing to take these jobs, but there just aren't enough. There isn't enough posts for them. It just seems a bit weird, doesn't it? Like, what?
Yeah, there seems to be a bottleneck because all the people that didn't get a job last year are going to apply next year, and then all the
Yeah,
people who are going to be
exactly.
applying anyway this year are going to apply this year, and then all of a sudden you get like an increasing number of applicants, and then what ends up happening is that the people who didn't apply last year will go do something else like a PhD, an MD, and then it just becomes I think it becomes an eventual requirement. But I also think that the bigger picture is that they want more junior doctors. They don't
Yeah,
want
sure.
they don't want people in training. They don't want more consultants. They want more junior doctors, and the way to do that is by bottlenecking it and basically putting everyone in this sort of, I don't want to call it purgatory. I mean, it's all learning, but you're just stuck in this limbo of, oh, I'm going to try again next year. I'm going to try again next year, and then just have this. So you're going to end up having a massive cohort of junior doctors,
Yeah.
and what's the point to do that rota?
I was interested to see though what Johnny Gukian's response, which was pretty much along the lines of Hanlon's razor, which is never attribute malice to something that you can attribute ignorance or to, and basically it's saying it's probably not as sophisticated as that. It's just that we're run by a bunch of idiots, which I don't know if that makes me feel like better about it or worse.
Yeah, you hope they're being smart, but if they're not being smart, then that's sad as well on some level.
But if they're
Part
stupid, there's hope, isn't it? If they're stupid, then there's hope, isn't it? That's the point, is it? No.
I don't know, but how could there be that kind of? Come on, it's been going on for years. There must be
Yeah.
some sort of bigger game here, or maybe it's me being paranoid, isn't it? As usual. Partha was talking about facts and medics, about interviews and stuff, isn't it? Did you see that one? The color of your skin dictates whether you get shortlisted for a consultant job, pass postgraduate exams, or pass annual review of competence progression. Partha's been very good at highlighting some very big problems, especially with training and working, especially if you, yeah, the color of your skin and how that can affect you. Have you ever felt like this has been an effect on you? Because I've often talked about the racist occurrences I've had, but when it comes to ARCP, I think, like, have you ever noticed anything like that through?
So, what do you mean?
Yeah, I'm just talking about like because these look like more official things: getting a consultant job, passing postgraduate exams, going to an ARCP. Because like having this kind of stuff happen in life is like what we're used to. We've been there,
Yeah,
right?
I guess.
When it happens at that forum, you think, really, like, why is this happening here? Like, surely this shouldn't have anything to do with this stuff, no?
Yeah, it makes me feel a bit uncomfortable as a topic because, like, sometimes what was it I was listening to, they're basically saying sometimes even though like you can't necessarily prove it, you know that there's like an air of something to it, which is that it's because I'm a person of color and stuff. Even though like you don't have evidence, and I find that quite difficult to say in some ways because one of the kind of retorts that you get essentially from white people, isn't it? Is oh, like you're making everything about race and whatever. But the numbers are there, as you say, like the numbers are there to show that there is like a difference. And if you accept that there isn't going to be a difference in quality like amongst the group, then you have to accept that the other explanation then is that there's structural racism. Whilst I think in like medicine, people, because they're familiar with kind of reading loads and whatever, that they are like quite good at just making up other kind of terrible reasons for why people aren't suitable candidates and stuff, that it's like not just that.
Yeah, I think obviously not entirely related, but that sort of gut feeling that you've got. My daughter and son go to a Islamic school on the Saturday, but they use a school, they rent out the school to be able to do it. And I think recently or something they've had some new management take over, and then they've been told that they're not allowed to use the school premises anymore.
Okay,
And
right.
the reason is because they said they're not following safety rules or something. And what safety rules? Oh, some of
Oh
the kids
yeah.
are playing in these areas and they shouldn't be. And it's like, you could just tell them that and they won't do it. Or you can tell the rules and then they
Yeah.
could follow it. But saying they're not allowed to use a premise anymore based on not following safety rules is not, it doesn't seem great, does it? But then all at the same time, been there before. No worries, fine, we'll go somewhere else. Because if it's not going to be this, it's going to be something else, isn't it? It's just going to keep coming back until
Yeah,
you finally got
exactly.
rid of them. So fine, if you don't want that Islamic school there, then you find somewhere else to take you until they decide that they don't want them there either. But
It
I
did
think that's
make
something we get used to, no?
It's true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go
So
for it.
it reminded me of this actress, Sandra Oh, who is Canadian American and was on Killing Eve. And I remember like she was doing this in I didn't watch Killing Eve, it looked like a terrible show by the way.
People
Obviously,
know.
yeah, Joe loved it. Joe loved it. And I was like, what is
Yeah.
this? And oh yeah, you know, this she just goes around killing people and oh there's this love thing. And I was like, anyway, whatever. I guess like I'm a hypocrite because I quite like Dexter, so you know maybe I'm showing my biases there. But anyway, Sandra Oh, she was talking about racism in the UK, and she was like, racism in the UK is worse because at least in America people are straight up about it. And whereas like in the UK people are just like really covert and they make up just like those kind of excuses like oh it's safety, oh the cultures, there's a cultural difference and all this kind of stuff. And whilst I guess there's a sentiment, there's like obviously an element of privilege there because we know that in the UK if you get stopped by the police you're not going to get shot and killed, which is obviously something that will happen in America. And there's like real like actual violence, so I don't think it's as simple as that. But I think her point though is that at least being straight up about the racism in a way, at least it means that you don't have to do the kind of mental gymnastics and then be told that you're like being crazy when actually you're picking up on an actual sentiment there and they're just not, they don't have the cojones to just say it to your face.
Yeah, it takes us on slightly onto another kind of discrimination where Jackie Desjardins, MD. Did you see this tweet? As an IM resident in the ICU, I felt like my male colleagues were doing tons of lines while I got a few. I wondered, am I imagining this? Is this gendered? Turns out others wondered the same, so we decided to study it. The results are now in or at ATS Scholar. It's a really interesting thing she's talked about, but basically, in conclusion, the major themes in a structured learning environment where self-advocacy is required at access education opportunities, women perform fewer procedures, but in well-structured supervised settings gender disparities in procedure volume did not exist. So that was really interesting, actually, that in situations where essentially you are in a room and then someone has to put themselves forward or get chosen to do procedures, there was a difference with regards to who was getting pulled forward or pushing themselves forward to do it. But when it was a bit more structured, then that kind of bias was being basically got rid of. And I found that very interesting, isn't it? But there is a bias that maybe people aren't aware of that is playing a role in the fact that some female trainees aren't getting the procedure that they would otherwise like to get.
No, well, I'm not sure if that's the point. I think the point is that culturally, I think in that situation, if you leave it to people who are going to volunteer themselves, it's much more likely to be men than women. So therefore, is that the best way of kind of allocating people procedures? And I think because that kind of, and there was a really good TED talk, oh gosh, who was it by? But there was a TED talk I remember watching, and that kind of risk-taking behavior and stuff is encouraged from the time that we're babies. And often, oh, what was the line? It's like men are taught to be brave, whereas women are taught to be perfect. And one of the things that like there was a study that looked at babies like climbing up something, and basically even parents, you talk about like unconsciously, they would often with girls they're more likely to be like careful at this kind of stage with kind of a baby girl, whereas less so with a baby boy of equivalent age. And obviously those kind of if that starts so early, I think the idea is that even in that situation, as a result, women are getting to do less procedures. So this is an open access article. So the title is Gender Disparities in Critical Care Procedure Training of Internal Medicine Residents, just in case you want to look up the article. But going through the data, if you're looking at the amount of time that a woman was available on an ICU rotation, they're expected to perform about 54%, but it ended up being about 47%, and it was statistically significant, so there's a big difference. And so I think one of the ways that you can get around it, because I think one of the objections that people have with unconscious biases is that it almost is used as an excuse. It doesn't really help. The point not is about the person's intention at that point, it's about what people do to redress that. And I guess an answer in this scenario would be not to base it on like volunteers and be like, how many have you done, 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 and allocate it fairly that way.
Yeah, very interesting tweet and a lot to take from there, I think, isn't it? I think it's really good work as well by her. Did you see about this other tweet about putting yourself forward, but then maybe not so much? Bethany Kelly, DSN,
Oh yeah.
asked to talk by a prominent UK nursing organisation today with no budget to pay for time, skills, expertise, or experience. This attitude enforces nurses aren't respected for our skills and knowledge base, but it's our generosity that is relied upon. And then, yeah, they were asking her to do a talk, get involved, but they said there's no honor. Basically, we're not going to pay you. Can you just do this talk? And yeah, I'm glad that she said no. And I think I did have a bit of interaction with her because she said that she took a leaf out of my book. But yeah, I'm glad she said no. And she said that. Yeah,
do you see? So I was seeing online, this happens loads to like black women, like wanting to use their time.
Oh, really?
Wanting to pay them. Yeah, it happens loads. Especially, and it's always guy stuff and whatever as well, like wanting to use their time and expertise, but not willing to pay them for it. It's so interesting though to see like so Beth really helpfully put in the kind of replies, and it's so brazen. Imagine if you wanted to have, I don't know, some famous white dude, I don't know why Brian Cox is coming to my head, but Brian Cox, that professor, and you wanted him to come and give a talk on, I don't know, some kind of recent research that he's done. Like, obviously, you might want to do it out of the goodness of his heart if it's for like school children or something, but if you're going to be hosting an event and making profits from it and charging people to arrive or whatever, then surely going to expect to pay that person for their time. Their time is like valuable. So that should count for everyone. Like, it's not regardless of the spec. So like it was interesting to see the email she got. Hello Beth, thank you for your reply and your interest. The event is entirely online. Unfortunately, I do not have a budget for honorariums as much as I would like to. I have to rely on the generosity of the speakers, which I think is a bit passive aggressive, who are giving their time for free. If still possible, I would love to have a chat on Thursday. I'll be available and piss off. When I saw that, just like piss off. Like that kind of response. If there was ever like a shred of me wanting to help, and I saw that reply, I was like, get lost. But her reply to that was really graceful. It's, thank you so much for asking me. However, I feel I have to decline. It's unfortunate that at the current time, when many nurses are being completely professionally and personally destroyed by poor pay and working conditions, that cannot support nurses who you approach for our expertise and commitment to our roles by paying an honorarium for our time and our experience. It's just ridiculous, really.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It just sometimes maybe just takes that one person to make that push, isn't it? And maybe other people see that and be like, you know what, I'm not doing that either. I'm going to stand up too, and I'm not going to take that. Which kind of brings us on to a tweet by Shivani Misra, and she goes, I always feel so much love for this person. And so Introvert Problems, which is quite a cool little Twitter handle, says, shout out to the person at a social event who is the first person to say they're going home and breaks the seal for the rest of the guests to be like, yeah, guess we'll be heading out too.
Do you do this?
I love it when someone does that. And I always find it really funny when someone leaves and be like, yeah, gone. You know.
I am actually quite introverted, but I will be the person who does that because when I've had enough and if I'm a bit bored, then I'm out. And I can't. I'm like, I think I've perfected it. It's usually like a slap of the knee. Right.
Oh, really?
That noise? Do you not recognize it?
I don't normally say positive things about like the kids, but they've been very positive in terms of sometimes when I go somewhere and I can't really bother with other people, I just play with the kids. I just make sure I'm looking after them. And then when it's time to go, be like, you know what, they're getting really tired.
Yeah.
Like, no, we're not. Like, no, they're tired.
It's your bedtime. It's your bedtime.
It's your bedtime. And then stop arguing with me. Look, we're going. No, we're fine. We're going to play for longer. We'll play for longer. It's like, no, we've got this to do. And I don't know, we did that yesterday. It's like, no, carry on.
Her tweet is probably one of those that has to have its statutes of limitations, isn't it? It's like something that if you tweeted it that evening, then the person at the part, like who did the party that day, would be like, "Wait a second, she's talking about us." So hopefully she waits a safe amount of time before she did.
Yeah, that's true. But I've been at children's parties. As soon as that cake is cut, as soon as that knife is hitting that,
you're so
cake,
right.
Everyone's like grabbing their jackets, going for just gone. It's gone. It's over. Silly. The other day, I was like, I needed to go pick up my kid, but then I couldn't because something had happened and I needed to sort that out. And then I had to go pick him up after this party, but it basically meant that my son was at this person's house for longer than they should have been. Right. And I think while I was driving, a few phone calls came in, but I didn't pick it up because I was driving. What are we going to do with this kid? And when I turned up, they just looked at me, be like, you're late and he's the only kid. And they looked like, why on earth did you take so long? And I don't want to be like, I had better things to do because, what's better than your son? But I genuinely had better things to do at that particular point. Yeah, I felt really sheepish about it. And I bumped into them the other day and I tried to explain myself a bit, but they weren't having it.
That's so funny. Can you imagine, like, in their heads, they were like, this is beyond the allocated time. Like, now we've got this random kid here. Can you imagine that? Were they white?
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew
Yeah.
it, mate.
You look
If
after
you're,
this guy.
mate, I don't think that would happen. Do you reckon? I don't know. Would that happen
I
with
don't
bad
know.
people?
I don't know. I
No,
think it would have, wouldn't it? I don't know.
no.
I can't.
Would you
I
behave
can't.
like that if a parent turned up late to pick up their kid for? You'd be like, "Oh, you're a bit late." What?
Yeah, no. I guess it'd be like, mate, you stay for longer. Stay as long as you want. You
Yeah,
shower here.
exactly. You
You know,
don't.
man, go for it. You know?
That's one of the problems, though, isn't it? Like Asian people at parties, is that we don't know like when it's supposed to end. Like, okay, here we go. I'm like, don't worry, I've got food for this entire. You know what I mean? I find that
Yeah.
if I've got people coming over, I've just got literally Joe will be like, there's 2 people coming over this evening, and you've bought like a month's worth of like biscuits and stuff. There's 2 people literally, and
Happened to me where I've actually invited an uncle around, and like he didn't say he was going to have lunch. No, I thought he was going to just have a cup of tea and leave, but then he didn't leave, and he just kept
Yeah.
staying and staying. And then when it came to lunch, I goes, "Are you not going to give me lunch, Imran?" And I thought,
oh my god! Wow, you're so
I know, I was like,
justified.
I don't have.
You didn't
anything."
have it.
I thought I didn't
For
have anything. So I had to
shame.
go get something, and he looked very
God.
like, "What on earth do you
Yeah.
think you're doing?"
Your
And I thought,
parents, your
"You
parents
said you're
would.
coming for tea. I didn't know you were going to hang around for as long as this." And I
Your
think he hung
parents
around.
would.
Yeah, they weren't impressed.
No, that is.
But I disappoint them. I am no stranger to disappointing my parents through show. I've done it many a time.
Because like already I'm like, oh, if the uncle was there, then the options like Deliveroo, you could Deliveroo stuff. You
Yeah,
make that
basically,
happen.
yeah.
That we did. Yeah.
Of course, we made it happen, but
What
I
kind
just
of
I was a
host?
bit bewildered. I was like, okay, I didn't know you're going to hang around, but I think I learned from that point on. I need to be a bit more, yeah, just have a lot of food sitting around in case. We had biscuits, had all sorts of things. I didn't know he actually wanted, but he wanted like rice.
Oh, did he?
Like,
Wow.
he was very
specific.
specific. The biscuits, the sandwiches. No,
That's funny.
I
Yeah,
want.
yeah.
Where is the rice? Where is the dal?
Oh,
Where is the actual
wow.
food?
Okay, that's probably a bit much, I think.
Yeah, no, it's cute, man. Interestingly, he hasn't come round again. I don't know why.
I think he must be like an uncle from our like parents' generation because like literally that's probably all he ever eats. I reckon my parents. No, I don't.
You know what?
What is this?
My
pasta?
dad used to be like this. He never used to eat anything, like anything. When he went to other restaurants, he used to complain about the food all the time. This is not done well. This is not right. And now, thankfully, we can go out to nice restaurants and we can go out to eat. And he does enjoy the food and he does
Is it?
talk about it with some reverence. Oh, that was really nice. And actually, when I went on a holiday to somewhere in Southampton, and I
Yeah.
went to a really cool restaurant. I should do a shout out for them. The person actually won MasterChef back in the day. I think it
Yeah,
was
wow.
in 2012. And it was really lovely food, Mauritian food.
Oh, cool.
So I would 100% check that out. I'm not going to find it quick enough. But
Okay.
anyway, yeah, her name is Shalina, and you'll find her at Shalina Cooks, and she has got her own restaurant, so it is worth checking out. And it was wonderful food, and that dessert, bro. Actually, you know what? You should just check out the dessert. It was
So
amazing.
what did your dad
So good.
order? Do you remember?
No, we shared a whole load of starters and mains and stuff, and yeah, he loved it. He loved
So was
it.
it?
Absolutely
So
loved
was
it.
it Asian food?
Mauritian food, which is a mixture, it seems like a lot of coconut dishes, but with meat and rice and stuff.
Okay.
And they had tamarind chops and stuff like that. It was really interesting. It was nice, man. Yeah, I know I can see your face, but no, it was good. It was very
Tamarind
good.
is like a lime, isn't it? I don't actually.
It's
The
like
faces, I
like
don't
this
know what
black
it is.
stuff that it's like a black sour.
Oh,
It looks like
okay,
a
yeah.
nut, but it's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
really a nut. And they
But
kind of
like
make it into this kind of fluidy stuff.
Oh, interesting.
But you just get the slightly sour taste to the chop, but it was like a good sweet sour kind of thing. It was really good, so 100% check it out if you're in that area.
I used to have to
Yeah.
like when I go out for meals with my dad, like I have to like mentally prepare myself because his like playbook is the same each time and it always vexes me. So like I have to remind myself not to get vexed. So the first thing that he'll do when you're at this restaurant is that everyone will hold the menu, right? Everyone will be looking through the menu, whatever. And he will be going around asking everyone else what they've ordered and not paying any attention to what he orders himself, right? And he'll
Yeah.
only start to look at his own menu that's in his hands when the waiter or waitress comes to the table. Then I'm always like, ask everyone else, ask him last. And then he'll do this whole thing where he like looks at it and looks at it from 40 meters away, like looks in, and then after like forensically going through it and then asking like whoever's next to him, but what is this? What is this? It's lasagna. It's like you literally have made it for us sometimes. What's this? What's this? And then by the time it gets to him, he'll ask for something that's not even on the menu. He's done that before.
Oh no.
And
Oh no.
inside, I'm like, ah. And then so sometimes if I'm intense anyway, so I'll say to my brother, let's just order something for him. And then, but then he'll be like, no, I don't want that, and it's just a nightmare. Yeah.
Wow, wasn't there like this thing back in the day? I remember when I watched movies back in the 80s, maybe early 90s, like one of the flex things that someone used to do was go to like a really fancy restaurant and ask for fish and chips or something. And they were
who
like,
does that?
we don't do that here, and just for enough money you will. And then just
really?
slams out like some money on the table. They're like, okay, and they go, fish and chips are done.
That
I'll
could
go
be my
talk to the
dad.
chef
By the way.
away. Oh, really?
My dad definitely has asked for fish and chips.
Really in the wrong. But once I went to this restaurant, it was in central London, a hare and tortoise with someone. And we were with someone that was vegan. And this is horrendous looking back at what happened, right? So she was vegan and she asked for a dish, but without the meat bit or something. And then the waiter went away, came back and said, "Oh, sorry, the chef's saying that they can't do that." And then she was like, "What do you mean? Just take them, just don't cook it with the meat. Just don't do that. I'm vegan." And he was like, went away, came back. No, the chef is not going to do that. Not, they're not happy. And she goes, "Yeah, but I've been here before and it's not been an issue. What's the issue? Just can you go and ask again?" And then what happened was that a bowl of this black stuff was just sent and given to her. And it
Right.
was not her meal, it was just this black fluid. And she goes, "What's that?" He goes, "That's what the chef's given you." And she just sat there, and I didn't understand like how big of a deal this was, but she was really upset. And she goes, "Can you get the manager out?" And the manager came out and quickly apologized and like just gave her what she wanted and then gave us like discounts and stuff. But it seemed like the whoever this chef going on a real flex. I don't know what their issue was, but yeah, I've never had that kind of thing go down. But I can imagine your dad annoying a few people, maybe having a few extra
Flex.
things added to their food,
Yeah.
Fight Club style. Yeah.
So that's why we never share. Yeah, that's why we never share.
Yeah, yeah, probably a good idea not to. Good idea not to. Thrush, I did want to talk to you about something. Something happened to you.
Something did
You
happen
got
to
into a
me.
bit of a ruckus, like a
Yeah,
proper
mate.
bust up. Man. Can
Yeah.
you explain what happened? Because
But
what I
the thing
saw
is,
was I got blocked, and I thought, okay, let me find out what's going on. And I didn't
yeah.
get blocked. I didn't get
So
involved.
yeah, you're gonna
But
need
what
to
happened?
like open these tweets up because I can't see them because I've been
Oh,
blocked.
you can't see them. Okay, so
Yeah.
let me
So
click
like,
on this one because
but
you've been blocked,
basically,
Thrusha. You've been
I've been
blocked.
blocked.
Yeah.
I've been blocked. That's true.
Blocked? Is that what happened?
Every time, I don't think anyone should be listening to any of the nonsense I spew. So I think it sounds entirely deserved. But
Okay, should I start?
basically, oh
Partha
yeah,
tweeted,
yeah,
a reminder to anyone working in the race equality space, if data isn't improving, we aren't doing our jobs, etc. So he's talking about racism. Then someone, I don't want to pile on. So look, someone tweets out, they've got quite a big following, seems to have a bit of a hustle going on. I don't like to hate on people's hustles either. But ironic that this doctor plays an important role in the stigmatization and exclusion and oppression of fat people throughout the UK. Is that because he works in diabetes? Okay, anyway, perhaps it's because fat
yeah.
oppression pays good money. Maybe because racism directly impacts him. Maybe because he just hates fat people. Hates is a strong word. And does Partha really? Partha does a lot of good work on the social media front and a lot of work he doesn't need to be involved with, and he seems to just wail in and do what he can. I was very surprised to see someone. How could you hate on Partha? But why would you hate on Partha? That doesn't make any sense. But Thrush, what happened next? Why don't you
Yeah, so
explain?
like I think my issue was that like I think everyone no one's like beyond reproach, right? So
Hmm.
like fine if you wanted to talk about the roles of talking about obesity and its kind of role in diabetes and whatever, go off. But it's just I thought it was really odd that this person he took issue with the stuff on like racism and I was like, what's that got to do with anything? Okay, it's an issue that's important to him. So what's the issue? And then it just went on. I think that's pretty much. I think I probably said one or two. I only made maybe one or two comments there, but I think it
Hmm.
was along the lines of what is your issue? And then and he also implied, I think, that he hadn't said enough about fat phobia, which is obviously an issue that's important to that person. And I was like, well, then if you're going to use that comparison, then what have you done against racism? And this person was like, oh, like my black clients were, I've done like free work for them. And I'm like, where's, and then I was like, where's the evidence of that? And I got blocked.
Hmm.
And it was quite strange because it was interesting that all of the stuff that they were suggesting was a bit kind of unverifiable. Like, how are we going to speak to the patients? Well, that's confidential, isn't it? So how's anyone going to
Hmm.
verify that? It was just a bit shady. But I guess I needed someone else to point out to me that the only reason that whole thing was happening was because Partha has a kind of widely followed account, and so to stir up indignation and whatever is a good way of getting follows. I guess that's what was happening. But I found it kind of sad.
Maybe, yeah, because it doesn't make sense otherwise. Like, of all the
No.
people, why'd you go after this guy
Yeah,
about this
exactly.
subject? Yeah, it just seemed bizarre, didn't it? But anyway, yeah, I only caught up with it later. I think when you tweeted that and I've been blocked or something, I was like, oh, really? Okay, what happened here? But talking about calling out people, Umair Akbani, did you see that? Was walking outside the hospital in my scrubs, and a striking nurse, not a nurse who's about to strike someone, but someone who's striking,
Yeah.
nurse left a picket to shout at me in public across the road, demanding to know why I was in my scrubs. We need to reflect on how we are complicit in creating the toxic conditions we complain about in the NHS. But I also quite like his follow-up. Also, just as a note, I fully support striking nurses. And by that means nurses on strike, not striking them. And the whole wearing scrubs out of hospital debate is, in my opinion, a nonsense and not something worth spending time discussing. The only two women who can tell me what to wear are my wife and my mum. Oh yeah, it's probably true actually for me as well. And probably you, Thrusha.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think, Thrusha? Walking around in your scrubs?
I do think it's
Are you
bad
allowed?
form. I think it's bad form to be shouting at anyone about what they're wearing, really, like in general in the street. And I think there's a kind of, in a hospital, I think there are like certain jobs worths who get off on that's against the rules. And usually you see it with women to other women, don't you? Like with their hair not being tied up or whatever. And I just think it's it's just a little bit of a low blow. Like, just give it a rest, will you? It's not even based in any like, so like, you can wear your shoe. It just seems a bit funny, isn't it? Like, you go onto the ward with your like shoes that literally could have been in the park and covered in crap, and you could do that, couldn't you?
And go do like what would you do in PCI?
Yeah, exactly. And
Oh, sorry, it fell on my shoe. Don't worry, it's fine.
it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. 7-second rule or whatever.
Yeah,
it
exactly.
just seems like really funny. Like, just let people be. And I just think sometimes people do it for the drama of being able to like. It just strikes me there are some people who need to make themselves feel big by like bringing other people down a peg. And I just think it says something about that person if that's how you're going to generate happiness and dopamine for yourself by bringing someone else down. I think that's just additionally pathetic.
I remember like after the whole people weren't wearing masks again, for a long time our hospital was still employing wearing masks. And I think I was walking towards the ultrasound room and I just pulled off the mask for a second because I was trying to do something. Like I either was trying to look at something on my phone, it was getting in the way. And I must have walked for 1 meter without the mask and someone started walking up towards me and I thought, who's this person? Oh, do I know them? And they had this big kind of smirk on their face. And then they said, you're not wearing your mask. And I thought, oh, yeah, okay, fine. So
How could you see the smirk? Were they wearing their mask?
It's a good point. Why do I feel like I could see their smirk? But they seem very pleased.
They were
with
so
themselves.
smug that you could even see their
They went
smirks.
through their mask, yeah.
Wow, that's
But they
smirky
just, they
eyes.
literally, they just look very bright. As in, they walked up to me like they're my friend. They're like, oh, I know you, kind of thing. And I was like, oh, do I know you? Do I know you? I don't think I know you. And then they were like, you need to put your mask. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, fine, thanks. Thanks for that.
Thanks, mate. Yeah.
I just took it off for a second. I just walked down the corridor. I put it back on right away. Not that I'm anti-mask. I was just saying I took it off for a second and someone was already on my case very quickly. Can't do anything around here.
So there are a few other interesting stories, especially of kind of people piping up with their opinions when they're not necessarily.
Isn't that what Twitter is all about?
That is
Go
true,
on then.
actually.
Which
Anyway,
opinion
here's
would you
one,
like to
another
talk
one
about?
from Shivani. Oh, for God's sake, Shivani,
Oh, God.
her again. A short, non-contemporaneous story. Chapter 1: Eminent Prof dissuades you from an aspect of your research. Chapter 2: A few months later, their paper on the same topic comes to you for peer review. End. Now, and I wrote Taylor's oldest time, but she missed the. Do you know what that means, Taylor's oldest time?
Yeah, as in it's something that's been going on for years, no?
No!
No?
It's a
Okay,
line
fine.
from Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, okay,
Taylor's
yeah.
oldest time.
But that came from the saying, no?
Yeah, but can you not just finish the line for me, for God's sake?
I don't know the next line.
Song as old as rhyme. Beauty and
Okay.
the Beast. Like, I'm not a big Beauty and the Beast fan, but Jesus,
Clearly you
come
are.
on.
You're bigger than me, but anyway, yeah, carry on.
Yeah, bigger than you, definitely. But for God's sake. Anyway, it was annoying, isn't it? And there's so many people in medicine. I reckon that nurse who was shouting out in the street about that doing the scrubs was like, oh no, it's for your own good because, I don't know, you might MRSA, I don't know. It's all...
Develop MRSA on the scrub.
Yeah,
Will
but that's
actually
what they'll
ferment.
say. They're like, I'm just worried about the patients. It's about the patients. And you're like, no, it's not. It's because you wanted to make yourself feel big and you just, yeah, same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen this kind of stuff, isn't it, with these big hitters. I've heard of these things. I've heard that on some level, some of them they have to review papers, and if the paper's a bit too close to what they're doing, they'll just purposely shove it down and give
Yeah.
lots of
Pathetic,
corrections.
isn't
The
it?
next thing you know, they've gone and put their one through. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I reckon that some of that must be like a basic human thing, right? There must be some sort of basic human element to not maybe wanting something good for other people, in that if someone's going to be doing some research and it's going to maybe hinder your own work, then you may not be feeling like you want to do it. And I feel like maybe on some level, I've had to make a conscious effort to be not like that.
Yeah.
And one point, I remember fairly recently, someone did ask me about teleradiology work, and
Yeah.
in the back of my head, I had an immediate inclination that I didn't want to tell them too much because it
Yeah.
might take away from my work.
Yeah.
And I realized that's not something I want to do, and I've never done that before. So why am I doing that now?
Yeah.
So I had to really you fight that urge. Would you think is that like Is there an actual inclination of people to be
Oh
a bit
yeah,
like that?
definitely, definitely. And there's a whole, isn't there like the crabs in the bucket mentality, right? Where like you're all crabs in a bucket, and if one of the crabs like tries to crawl out, then the other crabs will pull them down, and so no one can escape. But I think there's also, yeah, like you want to protect your own livelihood and stuff. And I think one of the things, I remember when I was like a junior, when I was applying for a number, I remember someone saying, oh, like intervention, like people don't want you to get into intervention because they're worried about their private work and the effect of having other kind of consultants doing intervention would have on their private work. And I remember being like, whoa, like that's some like 3D chess, like to block people because you're worried, like at that stage, that's how far ahead you're thinking. And can't like imagine, I think the things that obviously, I think that's rooted in jealousy, isn't it? Oh, it's mine and I don't want to and whatever. But then you could take the opinion that the more people that you have around, the better things might be in other ways. And I think you have people are always, it's like a really human thing, isn't it? If you look at the way that kind of politicians operate in terms of demonizing certain groups of people who don't have a voice for themselves, they often appeal to people's like baser instincts to like want to like them make them feel like something's going to be taken away, and that's a very good way of like turning people against one another. So I think it's a real baser instinct. And obviously we see like that stuff on like Twitter, like when people like argue about PAs and whatever, and just wanting to not, they think, or like I saw like a tweet which is like saying, oh, the job should just go to people who've been trained in the UK and stuff, and I'm like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
want to and I was like thinking like that's what you want to fight about, like you want to fight amongst the group, whereas really like if they made more consultant jobs and stuff, then there'd be roles for everyone. That's, if you want to get rid of that bottleneck, that's what you do. Whereas they want to remove the bottleneck by just annihilating the competition. Like it's just but it's such a like baser instinct, you can see it. And I think there are, as you say, like I think it's nice of you to acknowledge that, because we all do feel that way. But to be a bit more philosophical about it and stuff, I think it does, there is a greater good, and I guess one of the problems is it's not like always immediately obvious, and you do have to think hard, but there usually are answers there. And I think I talk about it a lot, but I read that book that was really good Economics for Hard Times, and it does say there is like an economic benefit to altruism. It does benefit, whether it's a case of having that extra person around, I don't know, means that person might end up being like an excellent colleague or whatever, and then they start some new venture or whatever. It's difficult to foresee, but you hope that helping someone else onto the ladder in a karmic way benefit you at some point.
I think that same sentiment is really shown in the whole lifeboat thing, which brings us on to this, where Neil Hamilton says the RNLI is a charity. The public donates it so that it can help with accidents at sea. The public does not donate so that it can rescue those who deliberately put themselves at risk in unseaworthy vessels. This madness has gone on for too long. And he goes and quote tweets GB News, which obviously we know is a fantastic source of information.
Yeah.
But I think that sentiment holds there as well, doesn't it? Where they're being told that we don't have enough stuff to look after ourselves. We've got people in this own country not being able to be looked after. How are you going to take on people from another country and help them out? Let's just stop them. Let's just let them stay in the middle of the sea on these dinghies. That's the sentiment. Exactly, which is bizarre, isn't it? Yeah.
I think like obviously coming from Neil Hamilton, the kind of irony is that this is obviously like a well-to-do, I think he's a former MP, I don't know if it's the UK.
Yeah, I'm not even sure.
And so talking about stuff in that way, it's just really, I find it interesting. I think that was that person, and obviously there was someone from Question Time who kept getting retweeted who looked a bit like Nadine Dorries, and she was talking about immigrants and stuff and closing our borders.
We need to close the borders. We just need to close the borders.
That one.
But I saw that, but it's the same sentiment, isn't it?
Exactly. And
what are you trying to say? What are you trying to say? So you're saying that all these people, they're essentially trying to say that anyone who comes across here are going to leech off the entire thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And not
That's the
give
implication.
anything back and not do anything.
And the thing that gets me is that these are people who actually probably won't stand to lose anything. So they literally just can't see the common humanity with these people who are like going on the risking their lives and children's lives. How can you not, you just reduce them to being like animalistic, I don't know, people who are not going to touch you. So it's literally just based on pure like disdain. It's sad, really.
Do you really think that this Hamilton guy has never been abroad and never gone to stay anywhere else and never enjoyed all these cultural things that are like so enriching to the society and things? It's just, I don't know. I think they just get a bit too focused on themselves and the way they're living their little life, and then they just do they get bored and just think, okay, I need to find a bad guy in life. Who's going to be the bad guy in life? Oh, those people that are trying to like jump across the bad guys, and I'm going to just hate on them and spew a lot of hate towards them. But unfortunately, they're quite commonly around, and that's how these GB News and all that kind of stuff is around because yeah, they've got the clientele to listen to this stuff. Cool. We are coming up to close to an hour, Trisha. Should we finish on our favorites, our favorite Twitter account amongst all you lot that are our favorites, but there is one that's very special to us.
Do you want to pick something slightly different? Because I've obviously picked two. One of them's a bit sad, which is, I can read that out, which is my mom and dad died very suddenly and they were super kind people. Every couple of months I go to a cafe, buy all the cakes and tell them to give them to kids and say it's from them. I miss them so much, but this way their names are said all day and people are made happy, which is quite cute, isn't it?
Wow. That is sad, isn't it? You know what? I think we just went away on holiday with my parents, and they were so happy, man, just to be with their grandkids. And I just thought, you know what? This is the stuff that's more important than anything, isn't it? Like these memories and stuff that they have, and I'm glad that we could do that. I need to do more of that, even though sometimes it can be a bit annoying, and I can be annoying to them, etc., etc.
Yeah.
The kids enjoyed it. That's more important than it. I'll do one then. I left my old job over 2 years ago. I never gave my work mobile back and nobody noticed. It still hasn't been switched off. Occasionally when drunk, I send a text and adopt a snow leopard for a tenner a go. I now have adopted enough leopards to populate a small zoo. That's quite cool. They're charging all that stuff to their company. It's brilliant. That's cool. Yeah, cool, man. Good to have you back. We should be hopefully podcasting in the next couple of days for the next episode. For this week, for the next episode. Yeah, go on.
I wanted to say that tweet obviously mentioned of Neil Hamilton. Because of that, so the London Marathon I'm running this year, I got a ballot place, but I figured I'd try and raise money for them. So I'd be ever so grateful if people would be willing to donate. Just they are like a volunteer-led service. They rely on donations. And they do a really important job, like 24/7. They make sure people don't drown. I think it's a good charity to support. So I'd be grateful if people could help out.
We'll put a link with the episode, isn't it? And then obviously tweet it out too. Yeah. Cool. Sure. All right then. Have a great week, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.